Okay. So shall I say something now about it? let's see. So this was, can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. So this was piece by Enno Poppe. It was originally for clarinet and ensemble. Then he made it for a bassoon player, and then I asked him, can we have this for bass clarinet? It took a while, but then he did it. And I will share the screen with you. So it's both for me and Richard Haynes. And Richard, he lives in Switzerland, and he is an Australian bass clarinet player. And he also asked now and then, Enno, like, how are you doing with adapting and so on. And then in a certain moment, it was there. And in the beginning, there's not that much of microtonality. But later, of course, for instance, here this passage I really enjoy. For the clarinet players among us, so you have a B and then a B quarter sharp. I do with the thumb on the upper trill key, and this I do as you play a low E flat. So everything you have to think of, because it's often hard to really do exactly what is written. In the end, you also heard a lot of microtonal colors in the high register and in the low register. So basically, I think it's really colors. So I chose fingerings, which I thought were appropriate. And then I wanted to show you another piece. This is for 2 bass clarinets, and it's written by my husband, Tobias Klein, and it's published with Alea Publishing. So this is Enno Poppe, it's Ricordi, and let's see, this is a CD. One moment. Yeah. Here is the here you can order the duo, the sheet music, and you can also listen to the recording. I will share a bit of the recording, and then I ask Tobias some questions. And this looks like, now this is in a Poppe. This looks like, this is the duo, so the first page, and here you see microtone and another one, and here is like a normal B flat, and here is a microtone, and here. So, and this is a bit different. It's not just a color that you choose, but you should really play the right overtone. because then there is a certain sound or harmonic coming out. Can you say something about it? Why you choose this combination of those two notes?
Yeah, I could imagine that anybody listening now to the fragment that you just heard would say, "Oh, I didn't really hear any microtonality at all there." And in a sense, I would agree, because that B flat, slightly lowered, that you're seeing, is intended to be played. That B flat is intended to be played as a natural seventh partial of a harmonic spectrum. So the fundamental would be a C, and what you actually hear is a very resonant seventh, which is in very much in tune, and and that's why you don't really experience it as microtonal, right? But then you can start talking about what is microtonality actually, and so really depending on the context, there's many ways to look at it and to listen to it.
And I think since you play the bass clarinet also, and you wrote this piece, like an Enno Poppe's piece, for me as a player, it's different in his solo. There are a lot of issues actually that you have to solve as a instrumentalist, because there's no way to play exactly what is there, which is maybe not problematic in the end. I think I found my way, and I'm playing pretty much every time the same. But for your piece, I do play what is written. Although you have to find out, for instance, like this fingering, what do you do? I think I take it like an F with a third or fourth finger.
Right.
Yeah. So the difference is that you play the bass clarinet, so you did not write something which is impossible, or how do you, when you compose, do you think you try it out yourself? Sometimes it's a combination of,
actually, yes. In this case, I did, because the sounds are so exposed. It really matters, and so I made sure that it is playable, and that I also wanted to have a pretty bright sound quality in the bass clarinets, because some of the fingerings that you use for microtones can sound a bit muffled. I mean, I think everybody has to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I did, try to solve the puzzle in that way to avoid those problematic fingerings.
Notes. Yeah, this is a very nice one. Let's see in the chat. If you have any questions for me or for Tobias, then please go ahead.
I'll start us off with questions because I'm pretty curious. I haven't spent much time working on microtonality, but I'm curious if there is a sort of uniform notation system that you are referencing, and if you had a resource that you could suggest to people who are interested in sort of dipping their toe into early, maybe some simplified works that include microtones. It's kind of daunting to look at Holz, for example, and see just how much microtonality is used in there. But maybe for someone just starting out, looking to see what's going on with this.
interesting question, which I cannot reply immediately with a repertoire, but there are, of course, pieces with not that complicated microtonality, and maybe on the normal clarinet, so on the B flat, it's a little bit easier because you have holes, and on the bass clarinet you have keys. But basically, for me, I think it's just searching different fingerings, and then you find out about different colors. So there, of course, there are certain fingerings. Jason, yeah, used very often, but I think I try out myself a lot. This is something I do, and you?
Definitely, yeah. Finding them by trying them. Yes.
I mean, when I had lessons with studied with Harry Spanay, he said just think about the system. When you close a hole, it's getting lower, and when you open something, it gets higher. So, yeah, this is
which is not always true,
no,
but most of the time.
Yeah, and of course, when you have on the bass clarinet with the two hands, when you have this key, it does something else. You don't have it on the clarinet because of the connection between the two parts of the bass clarinet. Yeah, that's maybe. But later on, I could think of more microtonal music, but I don't have it right away.
And for this piece, Tobias, if you could you tell us a little bit more about, Fie mentioned the imperative, like how important it is for the tone to be played exactly a quarter. How did you come about choosing to go a quarter, and then what notes you were selecting there? What was that process like? I think it's just interesting to, to make sure that the pitch is exactly where it should lay. Otherwise, the sound isn't quite as you were intending it to be.
Right. Yes. In this piece, I was using specific spectra, and so the fragment that you just listened to in the beginning, that was an harmonic spectrum. So there was you just heard pitches according to the pitches that you would find in the natural overtone series. Maybe we can, in a minute, listen a little bit more, because then you also find pitches that occur in spectra that are distorted in a certain way. So the spectrum becomes slightly disharmonic, and then things start to get become in a way more interesting and more. There's certainly more tension. And yeah, Jessica. So to answer your question, that was the most important principle I was using composing this piece.
Where shall I continue? Okay. And maybe something for me as a player. It's interesting that we, the two of us, we try to find each other's sound and sit right on it, or go apart. And it's interesting that when Jelte and me, when we play separate from each other, we sound really different. But when we play this together, then you can almost cannot hear who is who. That was really funny. What do you think about microtonal? What is your question exactly? I mean, I do like the microtones, the smaller difference between tones, basically, because you have more rich diversity in tones and in sound. Yeah, so I think it's very interesting, but it has to be used in a good way, which is not so easy. Yeah.
You can also experience it in very different ways depending on the way it's used. For example, I remember the first piece that I encountered microtonality in notated music was in the solo piece written by Guus Janssen.
Oh yeah.
And Sprezzatura, and there you have these ascending lines in quarter-tone steps, and that's works for me much more like a gesture than anything else. It's almost a physical sensation, those notes. And then you have other ways using it where you could say it belongs more into articulation, a way to articulate. For example, using glissandi and drawing them out. So there's so many different ways to use it and to experience it.
Yeah.
Well, we are out of time, so I'm going to cut you off there, but I really, really appreciate you sharing both the performance and the two works with us, and also your thoughts on the subject. So if people have questions, they can contact you, obviously. And we encourage you to seek out and learn this technique to increase your capacity as a player and the colors that are open to you, especially if you're interested in microtonality or composition. This is a really great tool to have. So our last pre-recorded session is just getting started over on YouTube. I'm dropping the link here. This is the Carter Pan Double Concerto Baroque with the Arizona State University Wind Ensemble. So I hope you'll definitely check that out. Thank you so much to Fie and Tobias for this presentation, and we will see you on YouTube. Thanks again.